Everyone makes mistakes with their book collection. There are three that I've identified, and I want to talk about with you today in order to avoid them, or at least have them pulled out into our consciousness so that we can look at them. If you're new, I'm Shelly. I love to read. I love to talk about books. And I'm excited to dig into this video with you. If you're new, maybe subscribe, maybe comment. And without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this book collection video. Mistake number one, buying a book because it's cheap, because it's affordable, because it doesn't cost more than $1. The world is awash in cheap, inexpensive, affordable books. And it's not necessarily a problem if you buy your books for a good deal or that you only buy them because they're a good deal. The problem is when one is adding to their book collection books that they would have never considered if they weren't the price that they were. So I've done this so many times. Library book sales. The corner of my library has a sale corner that I often beeline to see because the books there are 50 cents or $1. I can go, or I have gone, to my local Goodwill and picked up a cart full of books for about $20. I have done a tour of little free libraries in my area considering this title or that I would have never thought about if they weren't free. And I've seen this, but I don't engage with this habit myself, but Kindle deals, like Kindle book deals, ebook deals, the daily deals that one can get blasted to their email saying that this title or that title is on sale for $1, for $2, for $3. Now, none of these behaviors are an issue until me in particular, I'm like a good example, until I was adding a ton of books to my book collection that I wasn't really that interested in, or that I had never really considered reading, except for that maybe I vaguely knew the author and the book was only $1. And it's really that part where, and the book is only $1, is where we start to get in trouble, because then our collection, at least my collection, swelled with books that I really wasn't very interested in. And I was only purchasing because they were inexpensive, because they were essentially cheap. And all of a sudden, my book collection is just like toppled over with books, many of which I don't really even want to read. So that's a problem that I've seen. And also, like, I think the Kindle is a good example as well, because people buy the books and then they stay sort of hidden in the annals of the Kindle. Like, they're hidden there unless a reader is systematically going through, or like regularly going through and checking what you have on your Kindle. It's so easy to forget about because Kindle books are just not in even in your eyesight. Like, they're not even in your eye line. And so the Kindle books, buying Kindle books, I think can be extremely an interesting phenomenon, because on the one hand, yes, they're cheap, but on the other hand, they just sit on the Kindle unread and $1 wasted. We're going from the most concrete to the most philosophical, and this second one ties in with the first reason, but it's also leaning sort of philosophically as well. So our second reason for what we're all doing wrong with our book collections is not considering one's reading pace and out-purchasing our own reading paces, meaning that our library swells with unread books. We have seen this all over BookTube. I am guilty of this myself. This is why there is a very popular Read What You Own challenge, which has just gained in popularity in order to combat this issue of the swelled unread library within one's own book collection. I know that I've done this, and I really don't know where it comes from. I wonder if it's just a facet of our consumerist culture here in the 21st century. I wonder if it's a booktube phenomenon. I know that I definitely started purchasing more books when I started engaging with booktube more. I wonder if it's because some of us are content creators and book hauls are a popular watching type of video, a popular video, right? Because I didn't have this issue nearly as much when I was a reader and not a content creator. I'm not exactly sure about the origins of this issue and why it's so pervasive here in our book community. However, the philosophical part is that some people, including myself, really enjoy a large unread library. They like the choices. They like the feeling that whatever the reading mood, whenever the reading mood strikes, one can go to one's shelves and get exactly the right book for that reading mood. I know that it really definitely has to do with the balance of how you feel, how the reader feels about the unread books in their collection, and maybe how much pressure one is putting on oneself about reading the unread books in their book collection. I know that I've definitely pared down quite a bit this year. I have fewer than 200 books unread on my shelves, and I'm comfortable with that. I don't want to succeed 200, and I don't really have an issue with the amount of unread books, though I would like to have more read than not, which, I have a lot of read books on my shelves too. So I would like to have more of this number, this unread number, read, but I'm not uncomfortable with where it's at right now. So it's definitely like a balancing act and about knowing yourself and how you feel towards your unread books and whether it just doesn't bother you that you have a bunch of unread books or whether you are more of a book collector versus somebody who feels like they should have a completely read library. There are people that definitely set out to get their unread books down to 0, which is really awesome. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I don't mind having quite a few unread books. Some of the books I enjoy collecting, and I'm kind of okay with being somewhere in the middle, and I think that's where a lot of us are. However, it is a problem when we do continue to add way, way, way more books. Like, I know for my own self that I was adding way, way more books than I was reading every month. And there was a point where I did get kind of uncomfortable with that balance. And since then, I've been working to weed out, to be more mindful of what I'm purchasing, and to really slow down so that my purchasing matches with my reading pace. The third thing we're doing wrong with our book collections is definitely the juiciest, the most philosophical, and I think the most complex in a lot of ways. Our book collections are reflecting the reader we want to be rather than the reader we actually are. Our book collections are the most aspirational versions of ourselves rather than the reader we actually happen to be. I did this pre-BookTube, and actually in the early days of BookTube, I wanted to be somebody who read all of the classics, who read all of the massive, chunky, translated works, who read all of the dense nonfiction. I had poetry collections and collections of like fable and folk tales. I had it all, and yet that wasn't really what I was reading. What I was reading was mostly literary fiction, litfic, and children's books. So when I looked around at my bookshelves, there was a lot of books that I actually didn't really want to read. And I kind of didn't know how to read. Thankfully, I joined BookTube, and there were a lot of people who had similar aspirations to me, but knew how to put them into practice in a concrete way. It wasn't as if I hadn't read a classic before. I had read quite a few, and I had read quite a bit of dense nonfiction as well, to be clear. But to do it in this excited, sort of tangibly doable way didn't really come about for me. And maybe I'm giving myself slightly less credit than I deserve, but it didn't really come about for me until I joined BookTube, and there were read-alongs and other people showing themselves reading these classics, these dense nonfiction works, and just slowly showing themselves working their way through a little project or a certain book. And I could see that their models, their behavior was easily mimicable. And so I learned how to do that. But then I also stopped purchasing books, or for the most part, I stopped purchasing books that I wanted my fantasy self to have read. That I wanted the smartest version of myself, the most well-read version of myself, whatever that means, the most intellectual version of myself to have read. I stopped, or I very much slowed down that purchasing of the books that I thought I should have read, or that I thought would make me a better, more well-rounded, more intellectual reader. And so my collection now, at one point, it definitely looked like the reader I wanted to be. This like very smart, very hoity-toity reader. And now my book collection has quite the balance. There are definitely ancients, some I've read, some I haven't. There are definitely chunky classics, again, some I read and some I haven't. And there are quite a few dense nonfiction, many of which I'm excited to read. But there's also a lot of literary fiction and popular authors, some silly fantasy books. I'm not saying all fantasy is silly, but some actually silly fantasy books. And even a romance book, because I read all of that stuff. And that's how my book collection should look, rather than just looking like the reader that I was hoping to be perceived as, that I was hoping to grow into, and not really doing anything to do the work to be that reader. Now I'm doing the work and my book collection looks a little more balanced. So let's all stop buying books that we hope our future selves will read and putting that pressure on our future selves, and actually buying books that we want to read right now. There are two teeny tiny little bonus mistakes that I wanted to weave into this video. The first being overbuying in a genre. I see this a lot with especially channels that have a very specific genre that they read, and they suddenly like really make that their focus. And so suddenly there is like a swell of romance books. It's not just romance. I mean, it could be any kind of channel. Or any kind of reader, a classics reader, a fantasy reader, a romantasy reader, a romance reader, a nonfiction reader. It could be any of these kinds of readers, and suddenly their collection is so skewed in one direction, and then in a year or two or three, the reader grows out of that particular genre or that particular flavor, and what do they have left are these sort of books that might have aged poorly, and that the excitement has definitely worn off, but there are like a ton of them. And it's all in this very specific kind of genre or subgenre. So I definitely see that, and I definitely see this. So I have a mixed relationship with this one as well, buying books for only their aesthetic. So I went through this phase where I was at the thrift store for very inexpensively picking up books, like these little pocket paperbacks of classics, of modern classics like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Pride and Prejudice, so on and so forth. And there were these little tiny sort of vintagey, just precious pocket paperbacks that were worn at the edges and the pages were slightly yellowed. And there was something about those books that really made me delighted. And now I have a stack of them, but I no longer purchase them because I was really only purchasing them for the aesthetic. I don't really want to read a tiny little pocket paperback where maybe one wrong fold or one wrong turn of the page has the cover completely fall off, because that's happened before. So I would buy them for the aesthetics only. And I think that in some ways, it can be good. It can be a treat. It can be the special book in your collection, or the special handful of books in your collection, or even the special shelf in your collection of like a really juicy edition of something or a really beautiful book. However, just continuing to purchase books just because they're beautiful is, I think, so impractical. And I speak from experience, especially when they're inexpensive and impractical. And I'm so glad that that's a habit I no longer do. So that's it. Really 5 things, but three main things. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you all in my next one, hopefully. Bye.